I always thought I had it all figured out: solid job, a beautiful wife, and a family that seemed close-knit. My name is Mark. I'm 34, living in a quiet suburb in Ohio. On the surface, my life looked like a dream. Emily, my wife of 5 years, was loving and supportive, or so I believed. My parents, who lived just a few miles away, were the classic perfect couple, always ready to lend a hand. My younger brother, Jake, seemed like the easygoing type, someone I could count on. But looking back, the signs were there. Little things I dismissed as stress or my imagination. Emily's sudden coldness some nights, phone calls she quickly ended when I entered the room, my parents' insistence on controlling every family decision, pushing me to help out financially even when I was struggling, Jake's quiet avoidance whenever certain topics came up. I convinced myself I was just overthinking, that everything was normal, that trust was enough. Now, I realize how blind I was. That feeling in the pit of my stomach, the one I ignored for months, is the kind of warning you wish you had listened to sooner. Something was wrong, and it was coming closer, faster than I ever expected. It started with small things: Emily brushing off my questions about her day with vague answers, or the way she'd snap at me for no reason. One evening, I caught her deleting messages on her phone when I came home early from work. When I asked, she laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid. But the doubt planted itself deep in my mind. Then came the family gatherings. My parents, once warm and welcoming, turned cold and distant. They criticized my choices, my job, my spending, even my friendships. "You need to be more responsible," they said, but it felt less like advice and more like control. When I asked for help during a rough patch financially, they made it clear it wasn't unconditional. I felt like a failure. Jake was worse. He avoided eye contact, acted busy when I wanted to talk, and once I overheard him tell Mom that I was too sensitive. And making things worse, that cut deep. Was I really the problem? Was I imagining it all? I started doubting myself, wondering if I'd caused the cracks in what I thought was a perfect life. One night, everything came crashing down. I was searching for a missing checkbook when I stumbled upon a stack of unopened mail hidden in the back of our closet. Among bills and statements, there was a bank document showing several large withdrawals. Money I never knew was missing. My heart sank. I dug deeper, scrolling through online accounts, and found transfers from my savings to an unknown account. That's when the truth hit me like a freight train. Emily had been siphoning money for months, and worse, I overheard a conversation between her and Jake on the phone, whispering about handling things and keeping Dad in the loop. I felt utterly betrayed. Like everyone I trusted had been part of this secret against me. My mind raced. How long had they been planning this? How blind was I? The shock was unbearable. I was angry, confused, and overwhelmingly alone. I wanted to scream, but the silence around me was deafening. My own family, the people I thought I could trust, had turned against me in ways I never imagined. The weight of their deception crushed me, and I had no idea how to fight back. I confronted them all, desperate for answers. I looked Emily in the eye, hoping for honesty, but she twisted everything around, blaming me for being too controlling, accusing me of paranoia. When I asked Jake why he was involved, he shrugged like it was no big deal, saying I was overreacting and family matters aren't always black and white. My parents? They denied everything, playing innocent while subtly making me feel like the problem. Their gaslighting was suffocating. Every time I tried to speak, they turned it into my fault. Nights blurred into endless tossing and turning, my mind a storm of confusion and hurt. How could they betray me so coldly? I felt like I was losing myself, doubting not just them but my own judgment. The man I trusted, the family I loved, all seemed like strangers hiding behind masks. The loneliness was crushing. I wanted to believe there was still a shred of truth somewhere, but every conversation pushed me deeper into despair. It felt like the ground beneath me was giving way, and I had no idea how to stay standing. There was a moment late one night when I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Broken, lost, betrayed. But something inside me snapped. I refused to be their victim any longer. I couldn't let them keep stealing from me, tearing me down without consequences. I started gathering everything: bank statements, messages, recordings of conversations where they twisted the truth. I reached out to a lawyer, someone who could help me understand my rights and the steps I needed to take. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope and control. The weight of betrayal was still heavy, but I was no longer drowning in it. I confided in a close friend I trusted, someone outside the family who reminded me I wasn't alone. Sharing my story gave me strength. I realized I deserved respect and honesty, not manipulation. The anger I felt transformed into resolve. I was ready to stand up, reclaim my life, and make sure those who hurt me faced the truth. This was my fight now, and I wasn't backing down. The day I confronted them all felt like walking into a storm. I invited Emily, Jake, and my parents to a meeting, not for apologies, but for truth. I laid out every piece of evidence, every lie they tried to hide. Watching their faces shift from smugness to shock was the moment I realized how much power I'd regained. I made it clear, no more silence, no more manipulation. I told them I was cutting ties with anyone who treated me like a commodity, not family. The anger that had burned inside me turned into fierce clarity. I was no longer the person they could control or betray. I filed the legal papers the next day, not out of revenge, but for justice. The emotional weight started lifting. Freedom tasted bitter but necessary. For the first time in years, I felt peace, standing tall on my own terms. I wasn't broken, I was transformed. This was my life, my rules now. After the confrontation, the fallout hit hard. Some family members vanished without a word. Others tried awkward apologies that felt hollow. Emily packed her bags and left, refusing to talk. Jake stopped answering my calls. The silence was deafening, but it was also a release. For the first time, I was free from their poison. At first, the emptiness was overwhelming. I felt like I was grieving a life I thought I had, a life built on lies. But slowly, I started picking up the pieces. I found a therapist who helped me untangle years of doubt and pain. I changed my surroundings, moved to a new apartment where I could breathe without shadows hanging over me. Rebuilding my self-worth wasn't easy. Every day was a battle between old scars and new hope, but each small step reminded me that I wasn't defined by their betrayal. I was reclaiming my story, one day at a time, learning to trust myself again. This was my new beginning. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated the cost of blind trust. I was naive, believing that love and family would protect me from betrayal. But pain taught me something no comfort ever could. Strength comes from within, from standing up for yourself even when it feels impossible. I'm no longer that lost, hurt man hiding from the truth. Now, I'm cautious but hopeful. I've learned to set boundaries without guilt, to value my peace above others' approval. The scars remain, but they don't define me. They remind me I survived. I found a deeper sense of self, a quiet freedom in knowing I control my life and my story. If there's one thing I want anyone listening to take away, it's this. Your worth isn't tied to those who choose to betray you. Healing is messy and slow, but it's possible, and beyond the darkest moments, there's always a chance for light, a chance to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before.